intellectually engaging.
The Constitution provides that the land must be registered under the customer tenure system, which is one of those that's recognized by the Constitution.
Ground Zero, live and syndicated on your public and national broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda. Welcome back. Ground Zero continues.
Our dear and I am most welcome to UBC Ground Zero, and this is UBC Radio, and we are live on 5 radio stations that cover this program. Those 5 radio stations that cover this program are across the country, and we are talking about UBC Radio here in Kampala. That is on 98.0 FM. But in case you're in Walua, we are 97.4 FM. Leader, you can get us on 99.4 FM. And we are also connected to another radio station, that is Butebo Radio. That is in Mbale, 96.9 FM. In Usoroti, we are on 98.4 FM. And we're also connected to another important radio station that is in the heart of our city, that covers Western Nile sub-region, naturally Lango, Teso, Karamoja, and all the other parts. That is West Nile Radio, and that is on 98.0 FM. We're also live on UBC Magic, that is on 100 FM, covering all central parts of Uganda. And we're also live on Voice of Butebo, that covers western parts of this country. And we're streaming live on YouTube. You just put or enter UBC Ground Zero and you'll be part of the conversation. Ampaire Amon of Buteega is my name, and I want to welcome you to this important edition of your UBC Ground Zero. And it is my pleasure also to have a very special panel in our studios who are going to help us understand and also as Uganda joined the rest of the world to commemorate World Population Day 2026, which was celebrated globally under the theme Sustaining Resources, Resources for the Future Generations. And also we'll look at, although the World Population Day was officially observed last week, but the conversation inspires those conversations that we had and this week and we continue to have, you really inspire all of us to remain as an important ever. And also we look at the day which provides an opportunity to reflect on how much population dynamics influence every aspect of our lives as a country, as a population, as a global citizen of this country, as a region of East Africa, as a continent of Africa. When we talk about this, we look at the healthcare, we look at the education, we look at the employment, we look at the housing, we go to food security, we talk about the environment conservation, we also look at the sustainable economic development. Those are some of the things that will feature in our discussion this morning up to the afternoon, because we start at 10 a.m. and we end at 12 p.m. But also the repeat of this program is always on Sunday. So in case you hear us talk about the morning, when you hear this program tomorrow on Sunday 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. on UBC Radio and Voice of Butebo, just understand that it is a repeat of this program. So we talk about Uganda, which is one of the most youngest and fast growing population in the world, which presents tremendous opportunities, but also we look at how our youth workforce, but also what are some of the challenges that come with this to ensure that our natural resources, our public services, the economic opportunities are sufficient not only for today's generation, but also for those yet to come. In every person's life, you look at providing for your children, but also grandchildren. We are enjoying Uganda, we are enjoying wherever you are because of the seeds that our parents planted then, because they planned for us. I love the saying of these days, the planned kids. How have we planned for our kids, that to those that will come after us, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 years to come, what will they find? When we talk about health sector, how many hospitals have we established? But also those that have been established, how have we maintained them? We come to environment. How have we protected the environment? I have seen more often in the billboards, people, there are always this advert, the air we breathe, the sound. How have we conserved our environment that we are going to enjoy until we get out of this world, but also for children and grandchildren to enjoy? The education. Is our education really providing solutions to our communities and our country and also our societies? Is it applied education? We have professors out of the university every day, but what have they done to make sure that we get out of these problems? Every day Uganda graduates millions and millions of students from all institutions of high learning, vocational, and also other universities. What products are we having? This is the kind of discussion that we're going to engage ourselves in, which brings together distinguished panelists from government, civil society, political arena, the policy analysis community, analysis, and the community. Together we will help to explore how Uganda can really harness its growing population while ensuring sustainable use of our resources for the future generation. And we are so much glad that we have in our studios already Bamwesje Ezra is the project coordinator coming from Population Services International Uganda, or many of you know it as PSI. You're most welcome and thank you for joining us this very morning, Ezra.
Thank you, and I'm happy to be here. And to the listeners, good morning.
It's a good morning indeed, and also we have our own, as usual, Chelinju Majezi, Communications Officer from Government Citizen Interaction Center, also in this edition. You're most welcome, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Amon. Good morning, our listeners. Yeah, Magezi Chelinju are my names, and once again, happy to be with you to discuss national, global, and even extraterrestrial issues on our Earth. Good morning, and have a nice 2 hours of listenership.
Interesting. Also, we expect to be joined by Ojabili Augustine, who is one of the prominent leaders coming from Forum for Democratic Change, joining us later. And also, we're going to have the Dakas Okoth, who is the Principal Public Relations Officer coming from Uganda Bureau of Statistics. You understand their role that when we talk about population in Uganda, we always look at UBOS as their mandate to ensure that we are and also counted. And they say be counted. It matters. Just we're talking about 1 year and some months when we just had the population. The census 2024, which put Uganda's population at 4.9 something, almost close to 50 million Ugandans. What does this mean to us as the people of Uganda? We are increasing in terms of numbers, but the resources are shrinking and not really increasing. When we talk about land, it has been the same as 100 years ago, but we still increasing in numbers. When we talk about other services and facilities and other resources, they seem to be still not increasing or taking the pace as we talk about the population. Thank you, and you can help us understand, especially when we talk about our topic that we're going to look at, celebrating World Population Day 2026, sustaining our resources for future generations. You're most welcome, Ezra, and you can first educate us about Population Services International Uganda, what you do and how you've been serving the people of Uganda, as later you're going to inspire us, as we say in UBC, that we are here to inspire, inform, and educate the people of Uganda. And maybe the other thing, which is about entertainment, and which I believe that other programs do. But for now, we're going to be inspiring and also informing the people of Uganda. First and foremost, about Population Services International, sir.
Thank you, Amon, and good morning once again to the listeners. Bamwesje Ezra is my name, and I work with Population Services International Uganda, which we all most of you know as PSI Uganda. And PSI Uganda, we support the Ministry of Health mandate to actually ensure that Ugandans access services, especially the health services, and they access the quality health services. And here we are much into, we are covering close to 50 districts in Uganda. But Amon, majorly, me as Ezra, I really got so much happy when you invited me here, especially for the project I really coordinate, which is more talking about the youth and ensuring that the youth are actually accessing health services, especially, and ensuring that maternal, they really get their maternal health improved. And this project in particular is in Kasese. Away from that, we have a number of projects that we really coordinate. The projects that have something to do with the men, projects that coordinate women, ensuring that we have families that are planned for. You talked about planned kids. And of course, in Uganda, planned kids, like you said, resources are never increasing, even when the population is increasing. What does that mean to us? It means that basically, I take an example. You have a family. And the family you have, maybe as long as the number of members are increasing and the resources are the same, it means that we have to really, you will find there is competition for those resources, and which ends up creating pressure. So basically, that is it that PSI does. We have been here for quite a long time, about I think about 20 years now, and we continue to serve Ugandans. However, Population Services International is not only here in Kampala. It is not only here in Uganda. It is even in Kenya. It is even in Rwanda. It is even in Burundi. That's why here we have it as Population Services International Uganda. Our head offices are in Washington. So basically, that's the introduction about PSI Uganda. Amon, over to you.
All right, we shall get into that after knowing what Population Services International is about, and we are glad that we have this in Uganda, and I want to believe that how it is inspiring and also transforming lives elsewhere in the world, it is the same here in Uganda. Later on, we're going to also look at World Population Day, which reminds us that the population is about people, not just numbers. But also I'm wondering, how does PSI Uganda interpret this year's theme, and also looking forward to the numbers that are increasing. We talk about 50 million Ugandans according to UBOS by 2024 census. What does this mean? All right, we'll get back to you on that. Allow me bring in Chirinju, someone who has been known for speaking good about the government of His Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and recently has been also into PRU. I don't know whether you have changed or you are still there. You're most welcome, sir, Mr. Chirinju.
No, thank you very much, and once again, good morning, our listeners. NRM, of course, gave us for it. What it has been doing is giving birth. We gave birth to FDC. We gave birth to even NUP was people from NRM. So the latest child is good. Is PLU. For us, it's a democratic
increasing population still, especially when we talk about political parties.
If you see, like, for example, South Africa, when they took over power in 1994, ANC, there was one party almost, But over time, I think ANC has also given birth to, I think so far, like 3 parties. We have EFF, there's another one led by a lady, I think a daughter to one of the founders of ANC again. Like that. So it's NRM's work is to just give birth to democratic institutions. And PLU is the latest. The political party. That's why we are hoping it stays within the NRM. And the future continues. But I welcome Ugandans from the World Population Day, which happened on 11th July. Like you said earlier, it was not celebrated nationally because government has taken on austerity measures to cut a bit of expenditures that may not make a lot of sense. So instead of going to Kororo and the
So should Ugandans really cope up with this kind of arrangement that we are going to be celebrating this
we for example,
silently?
the money you spend in Kororo to celebrate World Population Day, send it to the population via service delivery, because that's what they want. They don't want you to celebrate.
After all, we are talking about sustaining
exactly.
and also utilizing
resources. So now you have taken them to Kororo, I don't know, this and food, microphones, speakers, parade, Yet the population is there saying, but where are the resources? You have the
fuel, facilitation,
allowances. You rather send that money to a hospital in Gulu, in Arua, in Kisoro. Then celebrate the day that we delivered to our population, rather than celebrated the existence. Because the only way, the best celebration is to make sure they are doing well. Of course, Uganda is.
So you're saying that for us not to celebrate this day, Uganda has benefited more.
Definitely, that money was saved, and it is good. It can now do a better job for the very population that we are supposed to go to Kororo to celebrate. So
it is the new normal.
In fact, it should stay like that. We only celebrate the independence, probably.
One of the things that people now talk about COVID-19 is that it brought us to the realization that we can save resources by doing this.
Home, you get it. In fact, these holidays should be a date for every government officials to spend time with their families. Take them out. You have been saying you are busy. Hey, today is World Population Day. Yeah, it's a holiday. Why don't you take us to the beach? But now you say we are going to Kororo. You see, I'm the organizer. You still miss at home. You get it. So
I've been deployed.
Going to Kasese this year. So it saves resources. It gives time parents to stay home. Even those who are not parents, it gives them time to catch up on.
We are all saving always, individual level, at household level, at the national level. That's a good one.
Hey, even these international diplomats who are always called in Kororo, they also have time to read through their files and reflect and do a better job. So we celebrated that day. That is last week. Many people didn't notice because they are used to go into public functions. And Uganda, as you know, it's one of the youngest populations. I think the second youngest. Mostly, I think, knows that one better. I think we are either behind, still I don't know, somewhere. But it's one of the youngest populations. And a young population is both an asset, but also a high risk. An asset that the more it grows, the country becomes stronger. A risk that if mishandled, it can turn out to be a very, very dangerous situation because they have energy, they have a lot of time on their hands, so they need to be utilized very well. And there's something you mentioned which I don't agree with you. We are not Uganda's resources are not shrinking; they are increasing. I mean, oil is coming, so when it comes, it adds on our resources. Uganda, I think we don't even do a half of what agriculture output could be in this country. We would feed almost our neighbors, but we have not mechanized. But we are still surviving. You remember the president said that Uganda, I think Uganda or in general, is where everyone can survive, including fools. You can just be a fool but survive and live up to 90. Why? Because there's food everywhere. I mean, if I fail in town and I go to the village. I mean, every morning I find matoke there, some of it. I was in Rukunjiri recently, and
Which is different from other.
no, in United
communities.
States. In United States, if you're poor, you are really poor. If you are broke, you're broke. You want eat. You want to eat on the dustbin, sleep under a bridge. But here in Uganda, you just go to your father's house. Even when you are 50, you go to your father's house and sleep. You know. So here we are still having but of course that situation cannot last, cannot continue like that, and that's why government. That's why the president is insisting on having everyone in the money economy, such that you relieve pressure on your parents, you relieve pressure on your brothers and sisters, because you have a small land and you utilize it as a family. It gives you better yields. So the population is so far in Uganda is we need more people. Why? Because normally when
we need more people,
yes,
or we need to reduce.
We need more people, because you see, for I can give an example of Japan. Japan was a very successful country because it had a huge population which would buy their products before they even export them. Internal market. China is another example. China, even if you put them on sanctions, they internally will survive. The economy will boom.
They consume what they
consume what because they will not even finish them. So India the same. You get it. United States also thrived because of a high population. They would do at that time. They would just simply tell, as long as you're a white person in Europe, just jump on a boat and come. They weren't importing other human beings. Black people were there by force, but they would just bring in Bulgarians, Yugoslavs, whoever wants. So the population increased and when they started doing industrialization, they had enough market to consume the products they were producing. So Uganda is not yet at the population level where we should be scared. We still need some more people to sustain the growth that is coming in future. Otherwise, the challenges we still have for developing countries where we still have gaps in health. We have gaps in manufacturing. We have gaps in health care. Those are the gaps that so far are a problem to our population. Our budgets are still small. We still borrow a lot, which puts a lot of pressure on the populations at a level where land is being squeezed, or food is being squeezed, or resources are being squeezed. No, not yet. At least not for Uganda.
We are not yet into the red line.
No. We still have fewer people compared to the capacity we have to look after.
Let me understand what Ojabile says, especially when we talk about population and resources in Uganda. You're most welcome, Ojabile Augustine. How is your morning?
Yes, Amon, good morning. Good morning, our dear listeners. Great to be sharing the panel with Chirinju and a colleague. I've not got his name well.
Ezra.
I hope it is not Michael Ezra.
You can't be sure.
Because
could be a family name.
I used the Ezra. So next time when he comes, he will say, I'm Michael, not Ezra.
You never know. When you are seated right side with the Chirinju who doesn't have gray hair,
anything can be possible.
Yeah.
Michael Ezra used to make our football so enjoyable. And then at the end of it all, he disappeared in a way we did not understand. So if you're the one, since Uganda is going to host African Cup of Nations, you never know, we would ask you what went wrong.
I may be in a Trace Empire who comes and disappears.
No. Anyway, that's by the way. Amon and colleagues and our dear listeners, population is a serious factor. Actually, other countries use their population as a means of promoting their economy. And for us, the question should be, what do we use our population for? Whether few or many, what is the importance of those people, the numbers registered in the Ugandan census? What is their value addition to the ecosystem and the coexistence amidst community members? So that is the very most important item we need to be discussing. That if I'm to look at the Uganda's population by number before President Museveni came in and currently, and then we compare the way government was planning for these people, you will find that there is a clear distinct in giving value to the population and planning ahead. So if you recall, during 1986, when President Museveni came to power, this country had a population of about 12 million Ugandans. However, at that time, it was easy that anybody who came from school would automatically get employed, or even you get employed before you complete your education or university. At that particular time, those who were at school had a lot of benefits. One of the benefits was, some of you used to, it was called boom. Those who are old enough, you remember the boom, where they would give you some money, they give you books, scholastic materials, which would, in brief, the word boom meant that it was something to help you continue out or study without much hindrances. So these were things which were done by the then regime. So it meant that there was planning. Yes? Am I failing to hear some? Okay. So this alone indicated that the former regime, maybe of Obote, did plan for its citizens in line with sustainability. That in future, if we are going to have population growth, then we must plan earlier what jobs must be there, how the jobs must be created, and that is how things were being done. That's why many of the people would come out of school already employed, or they get employed immediately. There was nothing like lack of employment for those who had at least attained qualifications. Today, the question is, how many have concluded school and are languishing on the streets? I think they are the majority. Very few actually go into the job market or even have the capacity to create jobs. This points out to how the regime and current government operates. So this is a disaster to the future of this country, and hopeless that at one point you are having students come out of school and they can't even apply the knowledge that they acquired from universities for the betterment of this country. We are the third, I think we are the third most, we are third in exporting of labor to outside countries. We have about 3 million Ugandans who decided to say, let us go and take this labor to other foreign countries. And then, yet these are experts. So why would an expert leave his own country to go somewhere? It is simple knowledge that this person has already found it very hard for them to utilize their knowledge they acquired within the gazetted land scale of Uganda. So that is my first kind of presentation in this. I don't know if you need more from me, but you had said what can Ojobile say. So this is what I can tell you, that government must plan, and it must plan adequately to sustain the current population to be beneficial to the future of this very country. So if that cannot be done, we are wasting time. At the end of it all, we are going to have a big population, but dangerous to the community.
All right, seems to be really heading somewhere very, very interesting. Jabili says that we are heading something that we are in danger, whereas Terenjo says we are still safe. I really want to understand how safe we are, especially when we talk about population and resources. And when we talk about resources, we cannot forget the institution that was entrusted this kind of mandate, and we talk about Uganda Bureau of Statistics, where we are going to get connected to Okoth Dakas to help us understand where is this going. All right, we seem to be getting Okoth later. He seems to be busy, but he will get back to us, of course, as we continue with the discussion. I come to you, Ezra. I seem to have a challenge here. Chiriro says we are still safe, whereas Ojebede says that we are in danger. From your point of view, considering the kind of numbers we have, you are Ugandan, and you see the resources. Chiriro is assuring us that we have the oil here, we have land here, we have even not utilized it to 70%. When we talk about agriculture, we seem to be in our comfortable zone, not minding about where the numbers are going, especially when we talk about the population. Where do you fall? Are we in danger, or we are still safe from your point of view, Ezra?
Amon, one, I must say, I'm not a politician. However, Chirinju is looking at it from the political perspective, and the way I look at the population that we have today.
Over 50 million.
Over 50 million.
Ugandans.
And the growth rate, you can see really the population growth rate is around 8%. If you can round off from the way we because last time I think wasn't it last year when we had our last census?
2024.
2024.
They said we are about
46 million, but today we are saying we are almost hitting 50.
Even by then we were saying 50, but I don't know why it ended up at 46.
So the population, actually, according to me, it's not about how many people are we, but I'm looking at how healthy are we as the people. And then how healthy is our environment? Then how is our community? So there are a number of arms that really feed into what determines us to be healthy, what determines us to have a healthy environment, what determines our community to be healthy. And then it is at that point that we can talk about a sustainable future. You cannot say about sustainable future today when you yourself, who is looking at the future or who is a vehicle to the future, you are really not yet sure where you are. So basically, at this rate, I think I look at our well-being. When we go to the health facilities, the government has made it well, and at least we have health facilities. At least we have some health workers there. And then we have some schools. You talked about it, because information is key. Information is power. So, how, as much as we are having a population of 50 million, how informed are they? So that now they can determine to have a better choice. Because when we are planning, when we are looking at our future, then we must take good choices today. In terms of how we are managing our resources, in terms of how we are budgeting for the government, Chirinju, and the people. How are we? I'm happy that he said nowadays we are not celebrating some of the public holidays. In fact, if I was not directly into this population, I wouldn't realize that actually there was a population day. Yeah? Then I was like, why is Alon calling us today after almost 10 days? So, basically, when we have our hospitals working and we have our people, especially the young generation, in fact, sometimes I say when the parents of those days, like 20 years or 30 years ago, met the parents of today, they may wage a war. So, today, if the youth or if the adolescents or if they had enough information, if the government helps us to put information wide, there are some areas where you go and you have no network, by the way. And so when we are determining that, for example, me, I always want to break it down to a family level.
Mm-hmm.
Because a family level is where the population begins. And how are my resources before we go to the government resources? How big are they? How enough are they? There are those that today, Amon and the listeners, today, there are some people who will have children endlessly. And you find one is at the ankle, another one is at maybe is a shamba boy somewhere, but he does not think of what the future, for example, what would be the future for such a person. So, as before we put pressure on government, we really needed to start from our families. The families we have, the resources we have, before we look at government resources.
Okay.
How are we determining our population so that we have resources that are enough? For example, if it is food, you have a plot of land. Gone are the days where the number of family members were the source of what? Source of labor. Because there was enough land, they would go and till, and you get enough. And that family would be so much respectable. But today you have a plot of land, and you expect to have how many people? 10. Even if they were available for your labor,
Okay.
would they really provide enough? So today, as from my understanding of the population, let's begin from our family level.
Okay.
Then look at how we are able to budget for them.
Thank you.
Before we put a lot of pressure on government to provide other services for us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I will get back to you and I will give you your minutes. We have Okoth Didakas joining us online. Is a principal public relations officer coming from Uganda Bureau of Statistics. And when we talk about population, we cannot forget their role, especially in Uganda. Didas, are you there?
Yes, I'm online. Moderator, good morning. Good morning all in the studio.
A very good morning to you. You are live on 5 radio stations that cover this program live, and we are all in Uganda. We are glad that you have spared some time to talk to the people of Uganda on UBC Ground Zero, and we're wondering how significant is World Population Day, and why is this year's theme very important for the people of Uganda, sir?
Thank you very much. And I want to start from why you have said that why the population is important. Definitely, the people who live in the world form the population. But again, specifically, when you come to our Ugandan setting, the population of Uganda is growing at a rate of, I think every mother now produces between 5 to 6 children. But this has, of course, reduced comparing to the last population census that we undertook. Obviously, for so many reasons. Number one, that now we have more mothers who spend longer time at school, and therefore the rate at which we get child mothers has kept reducing over a period of time. But still we see that Uganda has over 50% of its population being young, and of course this is a burden to our government. But I want to leave that point and just make a mention on this theme of celebrating World Population Day. Celebrating World Population is a very important aspect to us as a nation, because number one, it helps us to associate ourselves with the kind of people and their demographic characteristics. And that is, for example, how many people are we in Uganda? How many female population do we have in Uganda? How many males do we have? How many youths do we have? How many children below certain ages do we have? Definitely, I will not be able to go into the details of explaining different figures because there are a number of figures as far as population is concerned. But this occasion marks a very important session to our country, that we are able to recognize how we are growing as a nation and who is located where and what are they doing. Because, for example, when we undertake a population census, we are only not counting people, or we are only not identifying ourselves with how many people we are in Uganda. The 45.9 million people that was established by the census in 2024, that population now is estimated to be at about 48, 49 million people countrywide. But critical is that we are able to make the government and all the development partners understand that this is Uganda, this is our population, these are some of our characteristics, these are some of the kind of housing units or households and their characteristics that each population from different areas, say districts, say cities, are involved in. For example, when you talk of the Kampala metropolitan, you realize that it is basically a business center, and therefore you will not find any kind of agriculture within the KMP area. But when you go into the outskirts of Kampala, in the areas of Wakiso, there's a number of households who are involved in agriculture activities, and so on and so forth. So over and above, basing on the theme of World Population Day, sustaining our resources for future generation, I think it is very important that we observe and say, if we are to sustain our resources for future generation, how are we going to do this? There's issues to do with climate change, issues to do with deforestation, issues to do with how we manage our environment, how we manage our cities, and how we manage a household. I think it is very, very important that as we celebrate this year's World Population Day, we are able to put this in our minds and say, how would we even dispose of what we don't need, what the Uganda call kasasiro? Because all these things affect our environment, affect our generation, affect our future to come. So I think it is important that we make the good use of this year's theme, and as we go into the celebration, we are able to preach the gospel of, first of all, environmental protection, of ensuring that our young people are safe wherever they are, because as you may realize, we have had several incidences happening in our country in the recent times, unnecessary deaths, and therefore it is our role as adults and as people who make contribution to this country at this moment that these children are well protected, and therefore it is not a one-man's job. It cuts across the security systems, our individual responsibilities, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So over and above, that's what I can submit for now, and I wish the conversation can continue.
Yeah, sure. There are so many concerns, Mr. Koth. People say others are worried about the numbers you have just given us. Should we worry, or really, according to the numbers, we can still manage? When we look at the figures that you have given us in terms of population of Uganda, how does this rapid population growth really affect our natural resources? We look at the public services, we look at the economic development. Is there something that we should worry, or something is really in a normal state?
Well, a big population has both advantages and disadvantages. But let's focus our mind into the advantages of a big population. When you have a big population, definitely you know that there's going to be pressure on the natural resources. There's going to be pressure on the incomes. There's going to be pressure on service delivery. But it is also important to note that when you have a big population, there are certain things that will just work out themselves obviously. Number one, you're going to have a high rate of competition and creativity and innovation within that population. And this does not matter whether the population is young or old. But because people are struggling to survive, definitely people will have to become creative and much more innovative. And you may find that things. Let me give an example of China. Let me give an example of Nigeria, which has one of the biggest population in Africa. Nigeria is a developed country. It ranges within a middle income status. Why? Because they are ever struggling to survive, and therefore you must think, you must be creative, you must be innovative, and come up with things that must work for you. So let's not look at overpopulation as something that you know is going to constrain the government, is going to constrain household heads. Like, for example, me as a parent, I have children, I have to provide for them. I must think and say, well, if I'm to provide for my children, how much should I do? Should I only continue to rely on my job as a spokesperson of Uganda Bureau of Statistics? What else can I do so that my children can survive better and have a good status of living? So I want to give our listeners this morning various perspectives of a big population. And I have not heard of our government crying that, Uganda's population is growing, and therefore we are going to get into a suffering situation. I don't think that is the philosophy of the leadership of this country. So, looking at this, very fast-growing population, young population in this country, it has got a number of advantages, but also some slowdown things that, policymakers must put into consideration. And for me, I am glad.
And if we are to also talk about that hint, when we talk about two elements about Uganda's population, the fast growing and also the young population, most youth seem to be unemployed, full of education, and even when they get out of schools, we don't have hands-on. And you find that maybe it could be one of the things that have promoted or increased unemployment. Is Uganda's youthful population an opportunity or a challenge? And how can it be really harnessed for the national development?
Well, Uganda's youth population is an opportunity, not just for the population, but for the government. You see, with the statistics that we've been able to reliably and timely share with the government and policymakers and development partners, the government has come up with a number of programs to actually consume the youth population. We have the youth livelihood programs. We have the skilling hubs that has been established by His Excellency the President in different parts of this country. Why are we doing that? Why did these programs come up? Because they have come to realize that instead of we having youth who are redundant, running around the street, having nothing to do, they can go and be in these skilling hubs, attain skilling knowledge, and when they leave that area, they have been passed out, they are able to start up something for themselves. You can see now we have a number of youth who are hands-on, but also it does not. I don't want to dispute the fact that there are those who may have finished the university and have not gotten something to do. But this is not only a problem of Uganda as a country. This is a problem that we are still facing in most of the African countries and even beyond. So it is a challenge, that must be addressed, but addressed how? It must be addressed based on quality statistics, reliable evidence that can inform planning and evidence-based decision-making. And that's why we don't want to say that, you see, our budgeting process does not involve the youth support. It involves the youth support. Why? Because we have statistics that indicate that, this population or this percentage of the population is still young. And that's why we have things like even to do with the elderly. We also remember also have the elderly population, people who cannot actually do so much for themselves. But now we have the elderly fund. I've been told some people or some of our leaders or some of our grandparents are able now to earn some money from the government. Why is the government able to provide all this support? Because there is reliable data that can inform all these planning processes and can inform all this, policy decision advancement as a country strives for that, the much desired economic transformation that we all wish to see, that we have good roads, we have good hospitals, we have safe water that everyone can drink, and it is not going to cause any problem in their life or bacterial infection. So we are in a process. And therefore, for me, I want to continue challenging ourselves as a national statistic office that routinely we are able to provide data based on demand, but not only demand, but in a timely manner and in a qualitative manner.
Okay, I was going to ask that how is UBO supporting evidence-based planning to achieve sustainable development, but I'm glad that you were able to preempt that and also answer me in details. But before I let you go, I understand you're busy, sir, but if you can take one more question or two from my studio from the other guests, please, would be really appreciative. Jabili there?
Yes, Amon, thanks for connecting with the Okoth. Mr. Okoth We understand your schedules are tight. However, bear with us. I have two questions actually. I have two questions. But before I go to those two questions, I have an issue where you are making a statement trying to indicate that for Ugandan graduates not to be employed, it is we should bear with it because it is not only a Ugandan problem. But you go ahead and you tell us how Nigeria is a middle income status because they are continuously using their population. So you contradict yourself at one point. Because if you say we should really bear with you, what should we bear with you? Then you go ahead and you praise other countries for using their population. Yes, those countries are growing because they are utilizing their manpower and human resource and making sure that they grow it for the future. So what is that we are doing as a country? Even when you're talking about skilling of youth, actually the number of youth is about almost 75% of the entire Uganda. Okay, we say youth because we go up to the age of 35 years. So
maybe he can address that question before he gets it.
So when we are talking about the young people, it is up to the age of 35. If we have over about 75% of this population at that age, then how many are getting the skilling? How many skilling centers are there in the entire country? Why don't we make this program per district? We should have at least every sub-county a skilling center so that we grow the knowledge. Other than making it in Kampala, you have about 4 of them in Kampala. You go to another urban center, then the rest of the people can't access these places. Now the two questions are, Mr. Okoth, you see Ugandans...
Thank you so much, my fellow panelists.
First, wait. Those were, you can add them, but the questions I prepared for you are, during, it is Uganda's economy is projected to be growing at 6.4. I hope you know that. This year, because of the oil that is coming up. And next year, it will be around 10.4%. But our population growth is also at about 2.8 per year. And our fertility rate is at least 4 children per woman. So the question is, what is the minimum GDP growth rate we need just to keep poverty per person from rising? Because if we are to sustain the population must, poverty levels must come down. So what is that you people are doing to make sure that this actually happens? 2, the second question is that Uganda with 1.47 million new Ugandans added every year. New people come into the world, all Ugandan land, about 1.47 million people. Is our current growth enough to deliver the demographic dividend instead of a demographic pressure?
Well, if you can address that.
Thank you. You see, those questions are actually not my questions. Those questions are for policymakers. I want to only justify a few issues. That number one, Rome was not built in one day, and therefore we shall not expect that by next year Uganda should be an upper middle income status country. All these things that we see happening, all these development activities that we see happening within our communities and around our country, it is a process. And I want to give an example. When I was born a number of years ago, and as I grew up to, let me say, senior 6, when I sat my exams in 2006, we did not have electricity in my village, and we were using tadovers. As I speak today, We have electricity in my village. We have safe water running in my village, in Tororo. I want to justify the aspect that we cannot, and I don't think there is any country that can jump from one stage in a space of a year or 2 or 3 or 5 to the other. All of these things are process-based, and they're process-based. In this process, there are certain factors that must be considered. When you talk of the population and what is their contribution, definitely the contribution of the population is labor, income, so that the government can tax part of this money and plow back into all these projects that we see going on around. This country, I hear people talking about, debts, foreign debts, which also must be funded. But why are we going into all those foreign debts? Because our tax base is still low. Low in a sense that we still have very few people contributing to this tax base. So what needs to happen is, the government in its planning must provide that environment that allows us to do a number of economic activities as much as we can. And what are some of those factors? That we are able to wake up from our households in the morning, we go look for what we are doing, or go to office and do what we are doing, or go open our businesses without any disruption. Over a period of time, all these contribute to this socio-economic transformation that we keep singing about. Over a period of time, the youth are able to take decisions on what can help them grow individually, but can also support the country in terms of tax revenue. So it is a process. It is not a one-man show. It is not a one-day activity. It is something that it calls for all our involvement as the citizens of this country. I submit.
Thank you so very much, Okoth Nakas, for making time to speak to the people of Uganda, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
All right, being on with us online is Dideth Okoth, the PRO, or Principal Public Relations Officer of Uganda Bureau of Statistics, people that were entrusted by the people of Uganda with the noble mandate of ensuring that we have real figures. And we say numbers never lie. I'm taking a very short break, and when I return, I go back to the studios, but also you can talk about our topic, share your views, share your perspectives on 0776 511-426, and tell us what you think about our population vis-a-vis our resources. How can we sustain our resources for the future generations? We talk about planned kids. How best can we plan for children and grandchildren who will come after us, many generations to come? This is UBC Ground Zero, and we're coming back in just a bit. We pray that you don't go away.
Ground Zero Season 2. Stay tuned. We shall be right back. It's hot.
We passed it. We didn't know exactly what the problem was on the ground. There is no pretending about the effect of this thing. There's no pretending about it. Nobody should. It's a problem.
It's balanced.
This is not the stage at which you start planning to tax a commodity like coffee, especially from down there.
It's intellectually engaging.
The Constitution provides that the land must be registered under the customer tenure system, which is one of those that's recognized by the Constitution.
Ground Zero, live and syndicated on your public and national broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
The Secretary General of the National Resistance Movement, Right Honorable Richard Todwang, on behalf of the NRM National Chairman, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, congratulates all NRM village chairpersons and women council flag bearers who were elected to contest in village elections. In the same spirit, the NRM Secretary General reminds all party supporters across the country to note and massively participate in the following important activities. On Wednesday, the 22nd of July, July 2026, all NRM supporters are reminded to attend barazas in their villages for final mobilization. On Thursday, the 23rd of July, women above 18 years are to elect women council committees in all villages across the country, while voting for village chairpersons will take place on Tuesday, the 28th of July 2026. Please note, all flag bearers of NRM, LC1 chairpersons and women councils are reminded that from the 11th to the 14th of July 2026 is their endorsement by parish registrars, while nomination by the National Electoral Commission is scheduled for the 15th to the 19th of July 2026. We have seen what peace and stability under the NRM government can do. Vote for NRM flag bearers. Vote for progress.
Wewe ni raia Uganda na mwenye pato la chini ya shilingi milioni 1 kwa mwaka? Serikali ya Uganda imekuwekea kimkakati mpango wa PDM wa kukwamua kutoka katika umasikini. PDM ni juhudi ya serikali ya Uganda kupitia wizara yake ya serikali za mitaa wenye nia ya kuboresha maisha ya raia wote wa Uganda. Pata maelezo zaidi ya PDM katika kata au parishi yako kwa kusikiliza vipindi mbalimbali vya PDM. Huwa tunakuletea wataalamu ili kukueleza, kukufafanulia, kukuelimisha na pia kushirikiana nawe ili kuelewa jinsi ya kufaidika na PDM. PDM, parishi yangu, maendeleo yangu, maisha yangu. UBC Inspired.
Welcome back. Ground Zero continues.
Indeed, UBC Ground Zero continues. We are in 5 radio stations that cover this program live. We're talking about UBC Radio in Kampala, UBC Butebo in Eastern Uganda, UBC West Nile in Arua City. We talk about UBC Magic in Kampala. We talk about UBC Voice of Bundubujo in Bundubujo. And we are also streaming live on YouTube. You just put UBC Ground Zero and you'll be part of the conversation. Ampaire Amon of Buteega is my name. This is the right time that you share your views, our perspectives by sending your messages or call us on 0776 511 Tell us how best can we really sustain our resources with growing population in Uganda. Or we're talking about celebrating World Population Day 2026, sustaining our resources for the future generations. We talk about our children and grandchildren that will come after us. And I'm glad that in the studios of UBC we have a privilege to have Bamwesije Ezra is the project coordinator coming from Population Services International Uganda, Majes Chirinju, communications officer coming from Government Citizen Interaction Center, and Ojabili Augustine, one of the leaders and heads the Electoral Commission as a secretary from Forum for Democratic Change, or you call it FDC. And also had the privilege of talking to Didakas Sakoth, who is the principal public relations officer of Uganda Bureau of Statistics, or you call it UBOS. I have a number of messages already coming in, and you also call us on 776 511 how I can use these very minutes before I go to the studios, in that by the time we return to the studios, my guests can be able to address all these concerns at once. I am Nwamanya. My concern is the family planning services are available, but many rural communities still struggle to access them. What is PSI doing to reach these areas? All right. I think that is addressed to Ezra there. Thank you, UBC. Here listening in Komamboga. My question goes to Chirinju. Population is growing rapidly, and according to his submission, he seems not to be living in Uganda. And when we talk about population growth, we look at the hospitals, schools, which are overwhelmed. How is government responding? All right, thank you, the people of Komamboga there. Thank you, Amon, for the program. We are in Lira City listening live. What is government doing to protect forests and wetlands from increasing population pressure? We're supposed to benefit from these natural resources, but according to some prominent figures in our communities, they seem to be utilizing some of the resources which would have lived for the generations to come. All right, people in Lila there, we love you so very much as UBC. Amon, thank you for the program. You have a very strong team there, and I'm following the discussion. I am Ochen. You have highlighted challenges facing the country, and I love the comments from the man of FDC. But my concern is, what practical alternatives does his party propose? Okay. And also he gives another question here. How would his party address youth unemployment differently from the NRM he's criticizing? Okay, thank you so very much. Keep your messages coming through, and I'll be reading all of them if time allows. Amon, thank you for the program, and UBC for making these discussions come to us live. What role should young people play in ensuring sustainable development? Thank you. I am Emily Babirie. How can families contribute for perceiving resources for future generations? Since family is the first unit before we go to other structures. Okay. Is family planning only about reducing birth, or is it also about improving family welfare? I need to be educated on this because I have a very different mind when it comes to family planning. UBC Ground Zero, thank you for your program. How can communities project environment while supporting a growing population? Okay. I wish you keep putting your names and where you're listening in from. Thank you, UBC, for your program. We love you, and we're still following your discussions. All right, thank you. I wish you also put the name and where you're listening in from. My question, Amon, goes to the FDC man. What policies would he prioritize if given the opportunity to serve in government or to take on government to make sure that they improve population management? Okay, questions for you there, Jabile. Also, concerns and questions come from some lady says, I am Catherine. Some communities have cultural and religious reservations about family planning. How do you address these concerns? PSI. I think that is to you, Ezra. All of you seem to be having some concerns, especially when it comes to the feedback from our listeners. I'll start with Chilinju and Ezra, and then Ojabele will follow. Thank you. Chilinju, you can pick it from there, sir.
Thank you. Thank you again. Our listeners, for the questions you have sent in. We appreciate you listening and taking part in our discussion. I wanted to add on a few things that, of course, I mentioned. The other role of population, apart from being a market for internal manufacturing, which is very important, is also defense. The more people you have, the more easily you can defend yourselves. There are countries, if you start a war with them, you are certainly going to lose because of their strong populations. Then also, a population gives you global influence. Nigeria, like you mentioned, like Coach said, one of its biggest leverages is its population. And the more population they have, they find themselves everywhere. You know, they move about because if you go, I'm told if you go to United States, some of the best doctors in the US right now are Nigerians. And they wouldn't have been there that if Nigeria had 10 million people. But because they have a population of around 200 million people, they are able to export, professionals and other Nigerians. Isn't the leader of opposition in the United Kingdom of Nigerian descent, that lady? So you can see if you have a bigger population, you have more people traveling around. But also a bigger population, especially a youthful one, is also a good one for job creation. They are the most innovative demography of any society. So the population shouldn't be a really big problem. Then I also wanted to comment on a few things that my colleague Wajabiri said. He was saying that by 1986, you would be assured of a job if you leave university. That shouldn't be surprising because we had one university. So if you wanted a district lawyer, you had to wait for 4 years to get one from Makerere. Today, I think there was even a graduation over the weekend. We have 60 universities. The 86 thing, the only issue that I can really fault the government.
You find that every month of the year we are having graduation.
We had more than 3 graduations from different universities. We have 60 universities currently. So for me, the only challenge has been that we maintained the education curriculum of the colonies for a long time. So we have been producing job seekers for a long time. But thankfully, that has changed. The curriculum has changed, I think, but though at primary level for now, but the plan is to keep changing it, going in front, so that you graduate job creators. But in the meantime, the president has also put there skilling centers for these ones who have finished the senior 6. Even I remember my colleague participated in the interviews for these skilling centers. I think one in Kawempe. He was shocked. The president put them there for people who are less educated, but he was receiving university people. They are like, even I want to learn to do mechanics. So you can see graduates, and the man was like, but this thing is for the guys who didn't do much education. But university graduates who are coming there to be skilled. So you see, there is hunger to get skills from these people who are graduating. So this, and remember, we also forget that from 1986 around 1995, the country was still at war. So engaging in these policy changes or curriculum things, you had to first secure the country before you could come into this and changing these things. The other thing is, Jabir also said we are the third biggest export of labor. That's not true. In Africa, Egypt is number 1, Nigeria second, Ethiopia third, Kenya fourth, Uganda is not even among the first 5. So that's not true. We have around 300,000 people, I think, in the Middle East. Not 3 million, really. 3 million, that is the population of, I think, Dubai and the Emirates combined. No, that one is not true. Then also I wanted to comment on the population growth. There's someone who's worried about population growth. Population growth, like Okos said, is actually going to slow down. Why? The more people get educated, the less time they have for childbirth, the less time they have for, looking after babies. Look at most of our university graduates, the ladies. They start giving birth in the 30s. The only challenge we still have is we still have a bigger rural population. But as the UPE comes in and USE comes in, they spend more time at school. Me, when I was studying from primary 1, by P7, half of the girls were married. You get it. But today they continue and what?
Waiting or coerced.
No, because the parent now no longer worries about school fees. He keeps the child, he keeps the girl in the other ones weeding and what? They were weeding. They were getting married weeding for sure. Nwamanya was saying, I think Nwamanya and the last person were talking about family planning. Family planning, by the way, as a country now, we don't need it. Like I said, for me, we still need more people. However, at individual family level, you may need it depending on your resources. The more money I get, I could marry a second woman. But for you, the more money you lose, you have to maybe divorce one. So it should be at individual level, because its purpose was resource management at family level. But as a country, we still need more people. Uganda, I think, is one. Do you know people own square miles of acres in Uganda? One individual. That the guy owns like 3 villages. So we still have a lot of land because if the population increases, then government policies can come. It's like, look, if you have a square mile of land and you do not
You
have...
talk about land, Mr. Chirinju,
Yes.
but also the other day we hosted a professor from Makerere University who was worried that we have land that we are seeing, but the topsoil is no longer fertile. And he was worried that in 2040 years, Uganda will be only having soil that we cannot use it to do anything, especially when you talk about agriculture that you just mentioned.
No, that some of these professors also, they mislead us. Israel is a very small country. They are producing fruits that they export fruits. How do they manage their soil? These professors know that one is totally confused. It's a confused one, because all you need is to manage your land. We have fertilizers now today. In fact, like I said, they are Ugandans who own square miles of land. That means, and when you go on that land, the guy has like 1,000 cows. So much of the land is free. So we still have a lot of unused land. You go to northern Uganda, where they don't grow matoke. In western Uganda, you can see matoke from here and there. Square miles of matoke owned by individual families. Northern Uganda, because the land is still there, you can see miles and miles of bush. So what is that professor talking about? Agriculture can shift to northern Uganda, while the side which has been overused, it just employs in fertilizers, and then we go back. I mean, Israel is just a tiny country, but they manage their land through fertilizers and other methods. So we have to just employ technology to do some of these things. So now my whole saying that for me, I don't agree with the family planning for now. Maybe at individual level. This Komamboga man was saying we are overwhelmed, the population is overwhelmed. No. What the problem we still have in our hospitals is not too many patients. It's lack of medication, lack of medicines. That is the challenge we still have. Either it's stolen or... Because now, if like Murago shouldn't be a hospital for admitting patients. It should be a referral. When,
as the name suggests,
Kamboga Hospital has failed, that's when you should come to Murago. So because now NRM is strengthening, these health center 3s and 2s, such that no one has to leave, their area to come to Murago. You get it. So it's not overcrowding. It's just that the health system is still it's still clogged. Something just gets stuck somewhere and then it piles behind. Not that there's actually so much behind, but there is just a very narrow path when you reach a certain place. So which gives an impression of overwhelming. But otherwise, if you strengthen these health center 3s, health center 4s, you would reach Marago and you only have patients who have been failed elsewhere, whose care now needs experts. The only challenge we still have is the at lower level. Well, now the structures are now there. I mean the infrastructure is there. What is remaining is have the doctors there and have the medicines there.
Thank you, sir. Ezra?
To the listeners and to my children here, Amon and the listeners, what most people usually do, actually including some of our, may I call them lawmakers or managers, we start from doing and then we end by planning. And that is very, very dangerous. And because when you look at this population growth, if you can look at population growth itself, it will amount pressure. One, on services, whereby you will find, for example, the health centers you're talking about, it is not only Murago that is full. Even Kambuga itself is full. If Kambuga was empty and Murago is full, then we would say yes. So, when population isn't bad, but it is bad when we have not planned for it. Because you will realize, recently I saw the Minister of Local Government visiting a certain school and was counting children, the pupils, in a class with one teacher, accommodating almost 90 children. It is similarly when you go to a lower health center in my village, Kabuyanda, you'll find mothers on the floor. How many doctors? 1 or 2. And how many mothers in labor? They are almost, even when you say medicine is not there, I think we are still on the budget of about either 20 years ago, whereby we still have the same number of health centers in a given population, in a given sub-county. We still have the staffing is still at that time of around 20 years ago, where a doctor is supposed to seeing 10 patients is actually seeing how many? 80. So in the end of the day, that is how we see even maternal death increasing. By the way, if you didn't know, the maternal death is trolling high. Even the population itself, when you leave out Kampala here and you go back to our village, you will find actually poverty levels are high. So when this poor woman is running to a health facility where he's thinking he's going to get health services from, then because of high pressure that is on that facility, the medicines themselves, the NMS will come and provide drugs. In a 1 week or 2, the drugs are finished. And now, what are we now looking at? So basically, population isn't bad, but if we plan for it and we see, do you realize nowadays we are having climate issues? We are getting floods. Kasese is having floods that we are not seeing. Have the rains increased now? The answer is no. We are hearing of landslides. The drought, recently I hear in Canada, even we are getting bushfires. Climate is changing. And why? There is this pressure that the population has built on the environment. We are getting a lot of deforestation. Because I need charcoal, I don't have, even when you're saying I'm innovative, if there are no structures to support the population to be innovative, they will resort to our environment. The innovation they can do is to cut trees and do charcoal. So in the end, we shall see a climate turning against us. In the end, we shall see the economy. Even land, which you say we still have, there are some areas, like for example, if you go to Kabale today, there's a lot of land fragmentation. And if I have a small land and it's the one that I'm looking at to till every season, what does it mean to us in 10 years to come? So, I can frankly tell you, we need family planning at the family level. We need the country planning at a national level.
The Chirinjo's idea.
Yes. We need to plan first. Family planning is not only about taking those contraceptives. No.
Controlling birth.
It's not only about controlling birth. The controlling number of children. No. You control the birth according to the available resources. I think this again answers is family planning only reducing birth. No, it's not only reducing birth. I can have 10 children. I can have 4. I can have, but do I have the capacity to have those? And it may not necessarily mean that I must use the contraceptives, maybe pills, injections. It may not necessarily mean that to have a family planning. But like I said, life has changed. That's our mothers would breastfeed until the child gets off the breast, and then they can be pregnant. But today, a woman may get pregnant even before a month ends and is pregnant again. So that's why we say now, if you fail the other side, then there are those measures that they are put for you. That is when you resort to the family planning methods. So there is a difference between family planning and the family planning method. So it's the family planning method that people usually feel like, hey, this is family planning. No, if you are planning, which method are we using?
Thank you, sir.
So it is that will lead us to have a controlled population. We need a population high, but we need to control it to fit the resources that we are currently having. Otherwise, we shall find ourselves, that is why you are saying a mechanic is going to a technical, a skilling. Because at first, maybe he had no information. Maybe there was no planning prior and ended up having a university, but are now again going back to a technical, a skilling
Thank you,
hub.
sir.
So basically, really, if we are to maintain our population and we are to ensure having sustainable resources, we must plan as a family, we must plan as a community, we must plan as a country. Before we hit 50, are we able to have a population that can contribute to a tax base? Otherwise, we shall have much population with poor buying capacity, even when you think you need a market with a high population, but they cannot buy. Poverty is high. So you end up having a troublesome population that does not actually contribute to the treasury of the country.
Okay.
And then at the end of the day, what do we see? Pollution.
I'll give you time. I'll give you more time, sir.
Thank you.
Time seems to be chasing us. It was fast spent. But also, gentlemen, when we talk about sustainable resources, what are those resources that we have as a country that we really need to say, these ones, it should be a priority to every Ugandan leader or everyone's capacity to sustain, to protect, to preserve, to conserve. Looking at the rate at which we are destroying our own environment, looking at the level of unemployment, looking at the level of corruption, if we are losing 10 trillion Uganda shillings every year into corruption, what are we going to leave for the generations to come? We say that we have 70 something budget, national budget, but half of that, not half of that, but quarter of that is ending in someone's pocket and is not used as the intended purpose. Where are we going wrong? And also looking at the kind of rate of our soils losing its fertility rate. Where are we heading as a country? But also we are looking at the generations that will come after us. We are living and spending as if we are the only generations that are going to live. Yet we have produced children, and we expect these children also to produce children. But the way we are spending, the way we are taking these resources, it is as if there is no other Uganda. I want also to get into you the kind of education that we have. What are we training ourselves, our children, to be? Our roads are being constructed by Chinese. Our good facilities, if you have a good surgeon, you will go to India. If you want to have a very good mechanical, you'd opt for another country. What should be known? What should we be known for by the generations to come? Which seeds are we planting today that we expect to grow and benefit the generations to come? Ojabile, time seems to be on our side, not on our side. I would expect and request you, sir, to use about 5 minutes, and you tell us what are these resources. You didn't give us oil, but how best can we protect this resource?
You see, Amon, just briefly, one thing that many people do not pay attention to is the human resource. Actually, it is the best resource we can always talk about. You can have the oil, you can have iron ore, you can have minerals, you can have the land. But if you have a primitive human, if you have a human, you don't have the human resource to manage all these things, then you would be wasting time. not to undermine those people who asked us, who asked me to give them what FDC actually promised or it would do. You see, one thing that FDC had promised in its manifesto was to make sure that industries are put in zones. That we understand that a country called Uganda, every other zone has its priorities. If I'm to go to West Nile, there's no way you would leave West Nile without talking about Sim, without talking about G-nuts, without talking about cassava. Okay? That's West Nile. But today, as West Nile really produce, is there any economic activity that you can talk about that you can say today as the West Nile, as a region, this is actually what they are to the other parts of the country? Apart from getting raw cassava and put it under sunshine, then make some little flour, and then take to refugees somewhere in those few areas. So when we talk of zone, we were trying to look at how we even expand the employment base and also encourage our people to produce in large scale whatever they can. Okay, that was in support. We even looked at our educated people. We said now, our educated people, whoever leaves the university, you will live with 1 million shillings. And the idea was that by the time you leave, many of these organizations or companies are even asking your employment experience. You are not experienced, you are coming from school. But they want you to tell them, I have experience of 3 years. So where experience? Is it from school? So we assumed that if we give you the 1 million, you are going into the job market to begin your own business. And in the due course, we were looking at how to even implement the taxation policy, that where someone beginning small scale businesses, you don't bring this KCCA, is it URA, what, knocking at their door the next morning. So they will be forced to close. So some of these policies make our people fail to start businesses. You have 1 million. You have paid rent, maybe 100,000 in a small village somewhere. And now you've paid for 3 months. You are remaining with 700,000. You want to open up some small shop of about 500,000, then the 200 is to do some other work. But the next morning, URAs and KCCA are already at your doorsteps saying you must go and pay this. So these are the policies we are looking at. That someone who has started a business, you must be given some time, at least a year, to stabilize before you are taxed. So these are policies that we thought would help our young people and maybe even retired generals from different job market, from different public services, would come back and begin their own jobs and feel comfortable working in Uganda other than running away. Chirinji was trying to argue, you see, what you want to portray is that we are not third. You are talking about these people going to the Arab world. Yes, Uganda has dropped because Kenya, Ghana, and these other Ethiopia and other countries have decided to offer cheaper labor. So Uganda, which has more expensive, their labor export to those areas are declining. So we are about 4th in that area, or 5th. But when we look at the general population, where Ugandan population has moved out to go and search, not necessarily in the Arab world, but in the entire world, Uganda has about 3.6 million Ugandans who are out there trying to do something else other than Uganda. So we are about third in that line. For you may be looking at specifically going to the Arab world. No, I'm not looking at the Arab world. I'm looking at the entire country and the entire world. So, Mr. Amon, when we are dealing with the resources, the most important resource is the human resource. So we need to empower the human resource, put down mechanisms to make sure that the human resource can build other departments. Because even if we talk of agriculture, where FDC says we need to give 10% of the total of the total budget to agriculture, mechanized agriculture, so that it yields into industrialization. There is nobody who is going to work there when the human resources is neglected. They must be promoted and given the much needed labor force skills to go and do anything necessary to promote the agricultural, industrial, and any other policies that will be brought by NSN regime. So, Amon, for me, I think we need to give value to the human resource more than other resources, because other resources depend and rely much more on the human resource than any other sectors.
Our time seems to be spent, and I may not get time to get back to you, sir. Your parting shots, your effort and parting shots, sir.
So, to me, I think these skilling centers need to be made one per sub-county. So since we have about 2,300 sub-counties, we need to have the same number of sub-counties with the same number of skilling centers, because we cannot assume we want a population that is skilled. Shirinju here tries to undermine the value of a graduate going for skilling. That you see, why should a graduate go there? No, actually, it is okay for you to be multi-purpose. Since Ugandan education has not given us that value that we expected. So whoever went to the university and has not attained the value of that education has all the rights today to go to those skilling centers. And if we have one per sub-county, it will even give us more value. It will become more effective. It will become more efficient. That every year we have some people coming out. Like many people in this country. Majority of the people actually are not doing the work where they graduated from. Someone graduated as a procurement officer is now an askari guarding someone's gate. Okay? Someone graduated as an accountant. Yeah, is actually maybe managing people's contributions on a WhatsApp group. So these are things we really need to take care of. That if someone feels that what I went for at school, I've not actually utilized it efficiently, let me go back and do something else. Thank you, some people keep changing. You graduated as a social scientist, afterwards goes for law. Says, no, I think the way I do my things, I need to go and be a lawyer. Oh, maybe let me go back and I become I do something else. So that never stops. Let us give people the opportunity, the skilling centers, let them go one per sub-county. Let everyone get the opportunity as long as the capacity of the trainers is available.
Thank you so very much, sir. Is there what is that resource or those resources that we really need to sustain and protect dearly for the future generations, the children of our children, to come and see, for those that were there in 2026, really did something great? Your way forward on that, and you'll give me your parting shots as well.
Amon, as we conclude this, one, we must all appreciate that land is a very important resource where everything begins from. And when I talk of land, I also talk of let me basically talk about environment. When you live in Kampala here and you go to somewhere up country where you find there are still some trees, you really feel that air here is fresh. And so air is a very good resource. Population itself, we are getting a lot of pollution. And this pollution, in one way or the other, affects our health. The other day, our president was telling us that our life expectancy has increased. Yes, it has increased by the efforts he has put as with the government, but we as people, as citizens, it should be our mandate. Protecting or sustaining resources isn't a one-man responsibility. It is for us all. Actually, it starts with you, wherever you are, ensuring that at least where we are, we have ensured that our land is protected. Land is a source of everything. When we need food, it is land. When we need settlement, it is land. And actually, it is also land that can recycle to really get us a good climate, control the climate. Now people have now invaded swamps, so basically let our sustainability starts with us as an individual, start with a family. As a family, start from there. Actually, the government will get a lot of burden when the burden is already on the family.
Okay.
So when the family is stable, the country itself will be stable. And then the last one, of course, human resources is important, but the policies we have, how are we actually implementing them? People are in offices, but either I don't know whether it is the corruption you talked about, or whether it is we have a decentralized government, but it looks like it keeps on centralized. People are not implementing policies the best way they should be. So in the end of the day, we shall see everyone doing their own way, in a way of innovation, even things that affects the rest of the community. The people who are responsible for that are not bothered. So when we the government, Chiriju, when you get there and really we functionalize those services as per the policy, and we ensure that whoever is in the office is doing right, and if it's not right, then let the law take its course. Then we shall now see schools running safely. We shall now see, actually, we have high teenage pregnancy. Why? Because in a village, they are traveling long distance to reach school.
Okay.
So in the end of the day,
sir,
we are getting a lot of challenges.
Thank you, sir.
Policy is important. Thank you very much, Amon, for hosting us. I think we should have this show lengthened to some other hours, so that way
it is something that I will put to my producer. All right, thank you so very much, Israel. And happening now, before I bring you Chilinju, police is addressing the press about the recent school bus accidents. A number of schools and a number of children have really died, and I think government's position now, if I'm not mistaken, the Minister of Education, Honorable Ingo, has banned all travels and tours in schools. So for you who is a parent or a teacher or a director of a school, please be informed that no child or no learner is allowed to travel or tour as of now. Chilinju, please.
It's amazing that if President Museveni was listening in, he should be happy with Ojabir, because when the president came up with these skilling hubs, he actually received some resistance from a few policymakers, a few advisors, but he insisted. Now, if this man supports them, he even wants more. The president had also agreed that maybe they increase them. However, what I don't know is how they are going to do it. But Ojabir, for him, he wants one per sub-county, which is a very good thing. In fact, the other day when we had we had a discussion on those skills, I was also of the view that they should add other skills, including computer skills. Because, like you said, we go up to university, but hardly are able to use computers efficiently. So we can also add the.
For me, at university, I became on computer.
Yeah,
I because I knew how to use the computer.
Yeah, you know.
And then the majority of the students didn't know.
Didn't
and then
know.
the lecturer was overwhelmed by the number.
The number of the, you know. Now, on what Ezra was saying, that we tend to work before planning, which is an anomaly. Because now, when you produce a plan and find you have already worked and they are not in tandem, you end up with the shadow stuff. However, as you are aware, this is Kisanja no sleep, and the policies that are already on paper, or that the methodology that we're supposed to use, they are being reviewed. You saw what Baram is doing with Namere, Honorable. You saw what Afande Tumukunde said the other day, that all companies that are doing the externalization of labor should reapply. So generally, there is a review of many government programs that weren't effective, especially by the new team that has come in. Otherwise, personally, like I said throughout the show, I'm not worried about Uganda's population. It's still small compared to what we are capable of doing. However, I agree with Ezra completely that planning must be at the top of any successful story. You must plan and then execute the plan according to the parameters you gave it. So, if we plan for our population, the resources are there. Oil is there. We still have enough unused land. Even the one which they are saying has been overused, we hardly use improvement methods like manure and other technologies. We hardly do. So Uganda is still a virgin place for success, and it will happen because we don't have a choice. We just have to succeed. Otherwise, thank you very much, our listeners. Thank you, our host, and have a nice weekend. It has been a very bad week for the parents and for the learners who unfortunately lost their life in an accident that ideally shouldn't even have happened, because already there was already signs that the bus was not in good shape. They were in an environment that is so hilly. So the decision making became. These kids died because of decision making. The adults in the room just did not make any decision for them, and because just went downhill, literally. Very, very sad.
And it's a very big lesson to all of us, especially those who have the chance to take decisions on behalf of communities, societies, and also other people, especially the vulnerable people, especially when we talk about children. As you said, from 7th July to yesterday, about 10 days, we have had a number of accidents, close to 5. Remember 7th July, high-speed tragedy in Omoro there, where 15 died, 28 injured on Kampala Gulu Highway. Later 3 days, that is on 10th July, train collision in Mukono, where the school bus struck by the train at crossing. Just 4 days later, on 14th July, we had Mbale Iganga Highway collision. The school triple bus hits the stationary trailer. 1 day died and 15 injured. 2 days later, on 16th July, we had a fatal crash in Kapchora. The third school bus accident in 1 week we have had. I think that is King David's Junior School. So really, there is something that needs to be done by those in authority, and also the schools. Please, if you're to take children, especially for tour, make sure that at least the bus is in good conditions. The other day I also saw the minister in charge of youth and children stopping a bus. Instead of carrying 24-25 capacity, it had over 70 learners, and these are children that we're talking about. So I think that could be the reason as to why the government has this time put hold or banned tours and travels schools. So it is a call to all of us as parents, as stakeholders, to make sure that we are protected.
You realize that we are talking about these incidences, but within the I think we have also lost over 20 people due to hunger. This shouldn't be happening in Uganda in the first place. Hunger has killed over 20 people living in the Prince Districts of Karamoja. And this is not being talked about seriously, as if the more than 20 are not human beings. So it's something we must really engage ourselves in as well. Why are people from Karamoja perishing because of hunger? What more the people down? What is happening in Karamoja is not going to stop in Karamoja. It is going to extend because we have gone into changing times where agriculture is, I think, dying out. We just have a few areas which are really being used, and they are feeding a bigger population. So the moment those areas also fail, it means Uganda will be having a big problem. So we need to talk about these disasters equally. So we have another disaster of hunger. It has hit Karamoja and is going to expand to other areas of this country.
Okay, and we call upon those that are in authority and responsible, all the other stakeholders, please come and save lives. This brings us to the end of our discussion today. I want to thank you, Jabili Augustine, Chelinju Majezi, and also Msj Ezra for making time to come through and talk to the people of Uganda, especially on UBC Ground Zero, which is always live on 5 radio stations that cover this program: UBC Radio, UBC Butebo, UBC Western Nile, UBC Butebo, and Voice of Wonderbuja. And those who follow us online on YouTube, and also the repeat of this program is always on Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m. That is on UBC Radio from 3 to 5 p.m. on Sunday tomorrow, and also on Voice of Wonderbuja on Monday same time. Until next time, same station, same program. For God and my country, Amon Buteega, allow me not sign out.
That was Ground Zero Season 2, a production of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, UBC, inspiring Uganda. It's hot.
We passed it. We didn't know exactly what the problem was on the ground. There is no pretending about the effect of this thing. There's no pretending about it. Nobody should. It's a problem.
It's balanced.
This is not the stage at which you start planning to tax a commodity like coffee, especially from down there.
It's intellectually engaging.
The Constitution provides that the land must be registered under the customer tenure system, which is one of those that's recognized by the Constitution.
Ground Zero, live and syndicated on your public and national broadcast.